Good afternoon, grade 12 learners. My name is Mr. Simbi and welcome to today's accounting class. Today is a very exciting day because today we're preparing for our paper 2. Remember, we've already written our paper 1 and I hope that most of you have done your best. That is what is very important, that you go to the exam and you do your very best. Now that we are done with our paper 1, let's look forward into paper 2, and we do that with positivity and great enthusiasm. So this weekend is for us to prepare, to practice, and to do calculations such that Monday we come out again smiling and victorious. Now, in today's class, because of limited time, I think we're just going to have about 1 hour 15 minutes together in this class. I'm not going to spend much time. So in today's class, I'm going to focus only on two questions, which is going to come from different papers. So we have different papers which we'll be dealing with. And then from those papers, I'll be doing several calculations. Make sure you know the rule in this class. You have to have your calculator. You have to have your pencil or your pen, somewhere where you can write. You need to have a paper where you can be writing as well. There's a worksheet. If you've received the worksheet, if you're not able to print it, it's not a train smash. You can always print it. Since we have a weekend, you can print it and then you can still watch this video again. But if you're watching it now, what I want you to do is to make sure that every calculation that I am doing, you do it together with me. Are you ready? Okay, I see several people are saying, Mr. Simbi, you can start. Therefore, let us go. Okay, so my objectives today, as I said, very simple, very clear. I'm only going to touch on two topics today because of my limited time. I'm going to touch on cost accounting and inventory valuation. All right, you will see that our class is going to be about 1 hour 15 minutes. So after that, then we'll call it a day, and I wish you well. Okay, so cost accounting and inventory valuation. To begin with, I have activity one, which is from the NFC November for the year 2022. Okay, so make sure that you have this paper. If you don't have the worksheet, you can simply download this paper and you can work from this particular paper. Okay, so if you guys are ready, then let's get down to business. All right, so activity 1 is on cost accounting. We understand that cost accounting is a paper 2 topic. Cost accounting is a paper 2 topic. So expect that on Monday, we should see cost accounting in our paper. And this activity says, Weather Stitches is owned by Annie Brown. They manufacture bathroom towel sets and buys fabric from the local suppliers. And the information relates to the financial year ended on 30 June. Very important. 30 June 2022. Note, there was no work in process stock balances. This is very key, that there was no work in process. Someone is asking, Mr. Simbi, what is this work in process? If you go back on this very same page, you will find that I have done lessons on cost accounting. That is where you find the first lesson when I introduced what is cost accounting all about, the different types of inventories that we have. You'll find all this information on this very same page. Okay, now the question then reads, calculate the following for the financial year ended 30 June 2022. Number 1, direct labor cost. Number 2, factory overhead cost. Number 3, total cost of production. So there's about 3 things that we are required to calculate. Remember, the examiner can test the statement, the abridged statement of comprehensive income. In the past papers, you'd find it to be written abridged income statement. So the examiner can test that one because it's still part of cost accounting. So in this weekend that you have, please make sure that you get exposed to questions with such a statement. Again, on this very same page, I have done lessons to that effect where we prepared our abridged statement of comprehensive income. So make sure that you get exposed to such activities, as these will help you in preparing for your exam. Okay, so let's see the information. There it reads. It says, calculate the following for the financial year, and what we're calculating for is the direct labor cost. Okay, so I think we should just jump right into our calculations already. Let us begin with the first one. So with this one, when we calculate direct labor cost, we are told. So we're going to do it step by step and make sure that you have your calculator close to you as we do this step by step. We are told that we have 6 workers who are employed in production in 2021 and 2022. And each of them has worked, so 6, each one has worked 1,840 hours during the year. Okay, so in total, how many hours have we worked? All right, so for today's class, since I'm working with you, I'm just gonna have my calculator here with me so that it becomes easy for us. Okay, so I'm gonna have my calculator. Let's quickly go on and then we can move. So we're gonna say 6 times 1,840, and let's quickly punch that one, 1,840, and that is going to give you your 110,000, 11,000 rather, 11,040, 11,040. Okay, so this is for the 6 employees, and each one is working 1,840, so you get 11,040. And then they all get paid 40 Rand per hour. So you say multiply by 40 Rand per hour. All right, so if you multiply that by 40 Rand per hour, then you get your 441,600. All right, let's do it again. So it's your 6 employees. If you come again, you say it is your 6 employees times 1,840, and that is how you get your 11,040. But then your rate is 40 Rand. So you multiply that by 40 Rand, you get 441,000. This is your normal time. Your normal time. Okay, so here we're told this is normal time. And then we're told the overtime register reflected 230 hours. So we're going to come, we want to calculate the overtime now. On the overtime register, it showed a combined 230 hours. So it's 230, and their rate is 1.6 times more than the normal rate. So the normal rate is 40, but these guys are getting 1.6 more. So you come to calculate and say 40 times your 1.6, and then you would get your 64. Then you get your 64, and then so you come here is 230 multiply by 64, and then you will now end up with your 14,720. All right, so this becomes your overtime. And then they now say in the last bullet, production staff received an 8% bonus of the normal. So this is the bonus now. So they're getting 441,600 times 8%. So if you punch that on your calculator, which is 441,600, you multiply that by 8%, and that will give you your 35,328. Now we're going to add all these 3 amounts now. So that is your 441,600, and then we're going to say 441,600, then we're going to say plus 14,720, and then we're going to say plus 35,328, and then the total will give you 491,648. 491,648. That becomes the answer to the very first question. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break, and then we're going to meet again on this very same page. Let's meet in 2 minutes.
I want you to ask yourself these 3 questions. Number 1, what do I want? Do I want to become an A student, or do I want to become an average student? Number 2, I want you to ask yourself, how do you plan on getting there? Are you going to put more extra hours, or are you going to just sleep? Number 3, who will be with you in this journey? Because it is important that we associate ourselves with students who have the same vision as us, who want to become a student, who want to put in the extra work, who want to become better at what they do. Unsuccessful people do not plan, they just let life happen to them. But successful people are planning on how they want their lives to be. And right now, you plan on how you want your results at the end of the year to be like.
Excellence. Excellence is a habit. Excellence is a quality you have, a quality I have. It's a quality we have when we honor what is true to us. Yes, we are gifted differently. uNkulunkulu akasinganga ngokufana. Excellence is striving for your best. Whenever you have a particular project, test, homework, uzibuze, ask yourself, is this my best? Can I put in more effort? Excellence is striving to be in the top 1% of the area in which you are gifted. And so I challenge you, in every single thing that you do, in every single area that you're gifted in, whether it's sports, it's academic, ucula, whatever that gift is, strive for excellence. Excellence. Excellence is a habit. Excellence is a quality you have, a quality I have. It's a quality we have when we honor what is true to us. Yes, we are gifted differently. uNkulunkulu akasinganga ngokufana.
Welcome back. Before the ad break, we were able to calculate our direct labor cost. Remember, this direct labor cost should be shown on the face of your production cost statement. So this would also appear on your production cost statement. That is your direct labor cost. Okay, let's go on to the next activity. Let's see what is required of us. The next question then says, calculate the following for the financial year ended 30 June 2022. Factory overhead cost. So you will see that of late, most of the factory overhead cost notes that we get, it is when an error has been made and then we have to do certain calculations. So we want to do the same here today, that there are certain errors that we made and then we do the corrective calculations that must have been done. So it says, the bookkeeper calculated the factory overhead as 541.6. However, he made the following errors which must still be adjusted. So there are errors. After we got that amount, there are errors that we need to consider. Number 1, he included the entire insurance expense. So the entire expense was included. That simply means we need to come here and subtract that. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to say the entire insurance, I'm dealing with insurance here, so I'm going to come and say minus 32.5. What I'm simply doing is I'm taking out the error. I know there are smarter ways of doing this, fast ways of doing this, where you get the difference as a percentage, then you just take it out. I know of that one. But for today's class, we're taking things slowly. So I'm going to take out the error. How much is that error? 32.5 is the error. So I take out that 32.5, which is the error of the factory insurance, and then they say instead of 60% of the expense. So I'm going to come here, then I'm going to now say 32,500. Then we need to multiply this by 60%. It should have been 60% that was recorded. So I'm coming here now and I'm going to say of that 32.5, we must have recorded 60%, which is how much? 19,500. So I'll come here, then I'll say plus 19,500. Okay, so I have subtracted the 32.5, which was incorrect. I have come and I've added the 19.5, which is now correct. I now need to know, what do I do when I come down here now? Now, when I come down there, this is what I would do. I would say, I took out 32.5, minus 32.5. But I've added the correct amount then, which is 19.5. I add the correct amount, 19.5. Therefore, how much do I remain with? I remain with the negative 13,000. That means I come here and I'll say minus 13,000 over here. Can I move on to the next one? Let's do the next one quickly. It says, he allocated 54,000 to factory water and electricity using 3:2:2. So if I add all of this, they will give me 7. If I add all of this, they'll give me 7. All right, this expense should have been split. So I need to know how much was this amount before it was split. Because he has allocated 54. And we know once an amount is incorrect, we take it out. That is how we take it out. We now need to bring in the correct amount. So I know I'm going to come and add the correct amount. But for me to do that, I need to know how much it was initially before it was split in this ratio. So how much it was, it is 3 plus 2 plus 2. How much is that? That is your 7. Okay, so it is 7. So what I want is 7, and what I have is the 3. So it is 7 over 3 multiplied by 54,000. Okay, so what I want is the total, which is 7, and what I have is the 3, which is for the factory. And then let's see how much I will get. So let's come back to our calculator. So as we said, what I want is 7. Let's come here. What I want is 7, and what I have is 3. And then we multiply this by our 54,000. Okay, and then that gives us 126,000. So it means before this amount was split, it was 126,000. So now that we know the amount that was there before they made the error, let's calculate the correct way. The correct way is we must give 2 to the factory over the total of 4. So it will be 126 multiply by 2 over 4. This one is easy for you now. Okay, how much do you get? Quickly, 63,000. So I'm coming here to say plus 63,000. Then I can close my bracket. As simple as that. To get the figure that comes here now, I'm coming back to my calculator, and I'm now saying, let's see. If on my calculator, I say minus 54, you remember? Minus 54,000, that is what I have at the beginning there, plus 63,000, plus 63,000. That is going to give me a positive 9,000. That means I'm coming here to get a plus 9,000, a plus 9,000, like that. And then I would close off everything now. Don't forget to add the amounts that are already given to you. In other words, when you are doing this, you're going to start off with 541,600. Then you say minus what? 13,000. After I say minus 13,000, then you say plus what? 9,000. And then it will give you the total of 537,600. So I'll come here. My total is going to be 537,600. This is how it then ends. So the idea here is you must be able to take out the error. Once you've taken out the error, correct the right amount. But the examiner can bring several different adjustments. They can bring from your salaries, they can bring any adjustment which relates to our cost accounting. But there are times when they can bring these adjustments and they have to relate to the statement of abridged or the abridged statement of comprehensive income. Remember the shortened version that I spoke about? Yes, there are times when the examiner can bring an adjustment which is an error in the factory overheads, but you also have to record it in the short income statement. You should still be able to do this. you should still be able to do this. And once you're able to do this, therefore, you can prepare your production cost statement. At the same time, you should be able to prepare your abridged statement of comprehensive income. Okay, so if we're good here, I suggest that we go on. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Let's go on to the next one. The next one wants us to prepare the total cost of production. Once I hear the word total cost of production, in my mind, I think production cost statement. All right, let's quickly come here. So we're calculating the total cost of production. And once I hear that in my mind, I think production cost statement. So even though the examiner does not want me to prepare the production cost statement, but in a way, I am doing that. You get it? Because at the beginning of the question, they told us that there was no work in process at the beginning. They were preparing us for this point now. So let's see if we can do that. Direct labor cost. Remember, we calculated that one. So I'm coming here to say direct labor cost. It is my 491,648. All right. Oh, I wrote it on direct material. Let me bring it to its right place. This has to be direct. Okay, so this is direct labor cost. Direct labor cost, it is 491. Direct labor cost 491,648. There you go. Direct labor cost. Direct labor cost. Are you good with me? Okay. Can I go on now? And then our direct material cost. Our direct material cost. We're told here that the factory overhead is that one, which is 637. So here it's 537 actually. 537,600. That is our factory overhead cost. To get the direct material now, we'll come here to this additional information. And we're told direct material 652,800. So I'm coming here to say my direct material cost 652,800. So this is all information that I'm giving here. Let's start it again. Direct material cost, there it is. Given direct labor cost, we calculated it. There it is. And if I take these two, I add them, they should give me my prime cost. I know this is not what the question wanted, but we can do it. So I'll come here. It is going to be 652,800, 652,800, and I'm going to add my 491,648. And then the total will give me here prime cost 1,144,448. 1,144,448. Then they told me that there was no working process at the beginning. Okay, so I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna say here working process at the beginning. There's not working process at the end. There is not. Okay, so it is my 652,800 plus my 491,648 plus my 537,600. Okay, and then someone is saying, Mr. Simbi, please punch in those figures again. Let's check in those figures again. Let's re-punch them in. Let's see. 652,800. You're doing it with me. 652,800. Then we say plus 491,648. 491,648. And then we come again, then we say plus your 537,600. 537,600. There we go. And then it will give us all. So it gives us 1,682,048. 1,682,048. So let's come here and we're going to put that one in there now. So here it becomes, in your total manufacturing cost, it is 1 million, repeat it, 1,682,048. 1,642,048. So that is what it then becomes, the 1,682,048. Some are saying, but Mr. Simbi, why go through all this trouble when you could have simply said, your 652, 800 plus 491, 648 plus your 537, 600, and it would have given you still 1,682 and 48. What I wanted to show you is, once they talk about the total cost of production, they're asking for this amount here at the bottom. So that means in your mind, nonetheless, you're thinking production cost statement. And in this case, they told us that there is no work in process. So I just wanted to show you this is how it can be examined in the exam. They can bring it this way, even in this way as well. They can test you the same thing. Okay, let's go on to the next aspect then. And then the next one then says, okay, let's read it in here. Any is concerned about the fixed cost that increased to 806,400. Okay, so if you come here to a fixed cost, you can see it was 792,750. It has increased to 806,400. So our fixed costs have increased. All right. Now, Annie is concerned about that. Why should she not be concerned? So we need to give now reasons why Annie should not be concerned. Provide 2 points and quote figures why Annie should not be concerned. Number 1, economies of scale was achieved due to an increase in production by 1,150 units. So our production, you can see here that it has increased from 5,250 units in 2021 to 6,400 in 2022. So even though the total fixed cost would have increased, you will see that the fixed cost per unit here will decrease. So that is now the advantage of producing on a large scale. Hence here we're talking about the economies of scale, the advantages of producing more than what we had done in the previous year. The fixed cost, the total fixed cost, you can see it has increased from 792, 750 to 806, 400. However, the fixed cost per unit has decreased because we have produced more in this year. The next one. So we are talking about that decrease now in the fixed cost, that the fixed cost per unit has decreased by 25 rand. Okay, how do you get that? We simply say 151 minus 126. That's how you get the 25 rand. Or you can say it has decreased by 16.6%. How do you get that 16.6%? You say your old minus new divided by old, multiply by 100 over 1. Your old was 151 minus the new 126 divided by the old 151 multiply by 100 over 1, and then it gives you the 16.6%. All right, so the fixed cost per unit has decreased by 25 rand, that is from 151 to 126, that is by 16.6%. So as fixed costs remain relatively stable and they are not influenced by the level of production. So you can see here, as I explained earlier on here, that because we produced more, it has led to a decrease in the fixed cost per unit. And then here, total fixed costs have increased by 13,650. That is from the 792,750 to the 806,400. That is, they have increased by only 1.7%, which is below the inflation rate. Okay, so at times in other papers, they'll give you the inflation rate or they can give you the inflation target. But at times, they do not give you this. But then you can use now the inflation target, which is between 3 to 6%. And then you would understand, therefore, that if it has increased by 1.7%, it is still below the inflation rate. Okay, so there is an increase, but the increase is not much as when we compare it to the inflation rate. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next aspect now, and then comment on whether the production staff deserve the production bonus that they received. Provide 3 points with figures. So what happens is, in most cases, a question would come and you would want us to calculate the break-even point. You will find that if you visit the previous week's classes, I have calculated break-even point in these very same classes. So if you want to know how to calculate break-even point, please revisit the previous week's classes. I think in about 2 weeks from this time, I have done cost accounting and I've done break-even, and I've also commented on break-even calculations. So in this case, they do not want us to do that, but they're bringing in a different way of asking more or less the same thing. In other words, now they're saying, comment on whether the production staff deserves the production bonus they received, and we need to provide 3 points. So let's see if we can provide 3 points as to whether they deserved this production bonus. Number one, you can see that production is increased. Remember, we spoke about this. So if production increases, therefore they deserve production bonuses. And the opposite is true. If we want to increase our production, what can the company do? Just in case a question comes like that. If we want to increase our production, what can the company do? They must give production bonuses. But in this case, they are not asking me that way. They are saying, do they deserve the production bonus? And we say yes, because production has increased. And remember what I said, the other side of the coin is also true. What can a company do to increase its production? Give production bonuses. Okay, let's go to the next point. The break-even point has decreased from 6,954 to 6,156. You need to understand that in the previous year, we had to produce 6,954 units for us to achieve break-even point. And we would only start realizing profits after these units. But in this year, we are achieving break-even at a lesser number of units, which is good. It is good when a business achieves break-even point earlier. In other words, once we achieve break-even point early, it means we can cover all our costs and begin to realize profits. So what is happening in this case is our break-even point has decreased. It was 6,954 in the previous year, but now it has gone down. That is a good thing. So do they deserve bonuses? Yes, because our break-even point has decreased. A decrease in break-even point, as you see in this case, would be good for the business. We are achieving break-even point early. It means we begin to realize profits early as well. The earlier we begin to realize profits, then it is good for our business. So break-even point has decreased from, that is, by 798, and it has decreased by 11.5%. I want to encourage you, if you are able to explain it this way, this will be very good. That will allow you to get all the necessary marks. Let's go on to another one. And then the next one then says, the business has made profit on 244 units. Okay, so we've made profit on 244 units, or 31,964, compared to a loss. So let's see. In this year, we made profit. How do we see profit? Profit is the difference between production and break-even. So if you say 6.4 minus 6156, it gives you 244. So those 244 units are our profit. So the business has achieved profit on 244 units. Are you still with me? And then this is compared to last year, whereby last year, if you get the difference between these units and these units, you would find that we made a loss of 1,704. Last year we made a loss because we produced 5,250, which was below the break-even of 6,9. So last year we made a loss on 1,704 units. Okay, So what this therefore means is, in this year, we are realizing a profit, which is a major improvement from where we were last year. Do you think they deserve production bonuses? Certainly, because we're coming from a loss of 1,704 units to a profit on 244 units. That is very good for the business. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next aspect now. Okay, and then here's another one. Direct material cost per unit has decreased from 128 to 102. I want you to look at this one nicely, that your direct material cost per unit has decreased from 128. So here it was 128, but now it is 102. That is, our direct material cost has decreased by 26 rand per unit. And as a percentage, you remember what I said? Old minus new divided by old multiplied by 100 over 1. So you get 20.3%. This shows that there is good control over the material. In other words, there is less wastage and there's efficiency in production. This could be because of better training. But do you think they deserve a bonus? Yes, because there is good control over the material. So once there is good control, and we also see that there is efficiency, therefore these employees would deserve a bonus. The question that normally comes, or the way that they normally would test this is, our company intends on decreasing the direct material cost per unit. What can they do? This is one of the options. Offer production bonuses, so that if there is efficiency in production, then we can give them production bonuses. That would then lead to a decrease in your direct material cost per unit. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one. That the direct labor cost per unit has decreased from 95 to 76.82. Okay, that shows that our direct labor is being well managed and they're able to meet their targets during their normal time. I'm going to move on to the next one now. I like this question because this is one of the regular questions that we would find. And it says, Any wants to improve a profit by 50,000 rands during the next financial year. Okay, so if any wants to increase their profit in the next financial year while maintaining cost, calculate the additional units that she must produce to achieve this target. Okay, so if she wants to achieve a profit of how much? 50,000. We want to see the additional units. We would come here, then we say the profit that she wants to make. We divide that profit now by what we call contribution per unit. Contribution per unit simply means profit per unit. Contribution per unit simply means profit per unit. And how do you get profit per unit? It is your selling price per unit. How much is the selling price per unit? 375. Selling price per unit, selling 375, minus your variable cost per unit, minus variable cost per unit, which is 244. Okay, let's see our calculators. So we're coming back here. We are now saying we are taking 375 minus our 244. All right, 375 minus 244, that gives you 131. So here, 131. So what this means is, if you want to make total profit, of 50,000, yet you are making profit per unit of 131, how many units must you produce? This is what it means. If your total profit must be 50,000, yet your profit per unit is 131, how many units must you then produce? So you come back and you now say your 50,000, which is the profit that you want to make, you then divide that by 131, and that will give you your number of units, which is your 382. 382 units. I know it was 381.6, so I rounded it up to 382 units. Therefore, our units that must be produced is 382. But the other way that they can bring it, is they say the business seeks to produce 382 more units. If the business is to produce 382 more units, how much profit are they going to make? So if they bring it that way, you're simply saying of the 382 units that they're going to what? Produce, multiplied again by your contribution or your profit per unit, which is simply the 131. It will bring you back again to the same thing. But the other one then talks about the total number of units, because in this question they say calculate the additional units that must be produced. So this is an additional units, but at times they would say calculate the total units. So if they are to make only this profit, you have to consider now the break-even point, and then you go on from the profit that is there, then on to the extra one. In other words, let's put it into figures. If they want to make an additional 50,000 profit, apart from what they are producing already, if they want to make an additional 50,000, that simply means from the 6,400, remember, this is not the question that was asked. I'm saying, what if a question comes like that? If they desire to make an additional profit, okay, if they desire to make an additional profit, how much more units must they produce this year? Additional. In total, how many units must they produce? You have to take the units that you are making at the moment, which is your 6.4, and then you add your 382. All right, and then you get your 6,782, because they want to make the more profit. In this case, they were talking about additional, but here it will be more profit on top of what they are already making this year. On top of what they're already making this year. Okay, I'm going to move on. But according to the question that we are dealing with here, this is what they wanted only. Okay, I'm going to move on. And then we're going to start with activity 2, which is from the NSC June 2023. Okay, so we're just going to take again 2 more minutes, just a short break, and then I see you after 2 minutes.
Excellent. Excellence is a habit. Excellence is a quality you have, a quality I have. It's a quality we have when we honor what is true to us. Yes, we are gifted differently. uNkulunkulu akasininganga ngokufana. Excellence is striving for your best. Whenever you have a particular project, test, homework, uzibuze, ask yourself, is this my best? Can I put in more effort? Excellence is striving to be in the top 1% of the area in which you are gifted. And so I challenge you, in every single thing that you do, in every single area that you're gifted in, whether it's sports, it's academic, ucula, whatever that gift is, strive for excellence.
Welcome back, dear learners. Let us continue. We are on activity number 2, which is from the NSC June for the year 2023. Let's see what they want. Here we have to calculate the factor overhead cost and prepare the production cost statement. And then here's the information that we're given. All right. So some of the information was already given to us. And then, as you can see here, we're given the work in process stock balance. So opening work in process, remember this one you add. So we'll just add this one here, that is the 542. And then let's see the next thing that would come. The next thing that would come is the calculations that we now have. Okay, let's quickly go and we do these calculations. So the first one is we're going to come in, we're going to calculate the direct labor cost. So here it's going to be direct labor cost. All right. For the direct material cost, if you go to the previous week's classes, I've done several ones, even the ones that include the wastage of material. Please revisit them and see how we're doing those calculations. All right, so it would come here, so it would still be the very same thing now. So it would be 40 hours, 40 workers rather, 40 workers, multiply by 60 rand per hour, and then we'll multiply that by 1,920. Okay, so let's quickly do that together. That is how we always do it here, remember? So I'd come here, it is your 40, and then we would multiply that by your 60. All right, and then how much do we get? 2,400. Then we multiply that by 1,920, and then that would give us 4,608,000. So that means here I have 4,608,000. Then I would come and add my overtime in total, which is 1,142,000. Then I would add my overtime, which is 1,142,000. So I'd come and say plus 1,142,000. That is my overtime, 1,142,000. And that would give me 5,750,000. So I'm coming here to say 5,750,000. And then I'll subtract here to get now my direct material cost. Now I'm to get my direct material cost. I know that if I take my direct labor plus my direct material cost, it will give me my prime cost. So let me just subtract the prime cost then. So I'll come here, then I'll just say that amount minus 12.5. Okay, I know my figure is going to come out negative, but I know that what I wanted was 6,750,000 here, 6,750,000. So that if I add this, it must give me this one there. Okay, let's quickly move on to the next one. And we're told that there are some errors, that the bookkeeper calculated the effective overhead cost at 2,638,600. The following were omitted. Insurance is a fixed monthly premium for the entire year. Okay, the amount of 235,950 includes, so I'm coming here to say insurance. So 235,950 includes the premium for March. 2/3 of this relates to the factory. The key part in this adjustment is that the following were omitted. There were no errors. They were omitted. So it simply means I would come here. It will be 235,950. The amount includes the premium for March. So I know that March is in the next financial year. What I want is 12/13. Okay, so I'm coming here to say what I want is 12, which is over 13, and then I would multiply this by 235,950, which gives me 217,800. So here I have 217,800. So if I have 217,800, this is the correct amount for the year. 2/3 of this relates to the factory. Then I say multiply by 2/3. So I'll now come and say that amount there, you can say divide by 3 equals multiply by 2. And then you get 145,200. So come here, it's 145,200. Let's move on to the next one. And then the next one says, the bookkeeper calculated, remember, this was omitted. water and electricity allocated to the office is 69.2. So here it's 69.2. This is for the office. Note that water and electricity is shared according to the floor space as follows. So I'm coming here. I'm now going to say water and electricity. So it is my 69,200. But I know that what I want is what goes to the factory. And what goes to the factory is 560. And what I have is 160, which is the 69.2. So I'm going to divide this by 160. Then I close the bracket up. Okay, so when I come here now, I am simply saying, again, what is it that I want? Remember, what you want goes on top. You want for the factory, which is 560, over what you have, which is for the office, 160. All right, then you multiply by the amount for the office which you have, which is 69,200. The amount for the office, which is 69.2, then you get 242,200. So it becomes 242,200. That is what you end up with. Okay, and then it says rent of 316 was recorded in the factory overhead cost. However, the bookkeeper, okay, so here you can see they're saying the following must be corrected, not omitted now, corrected. All right, rent of 316 was recorded in the factory overhead cost. However, the bookkeeper used the incorrect ratio for the factory sales, the ratio. Okay, so this is exactly the same one as we have done with the other ones, whereby you have to come and say the rent. Remember what you do first. Rent of 316 was recorded in the factory. You take out the what? You take out the 316, which is what? Which is incorrect. All right. The bookkeeper used the incorrect ratio of 2:5 for the factory. So you know that it is 2 plus that's 7, that's 8. So what you want is 8 over 2 multiplied by 316,000. Okay, so if you come back again here, what you want is your 8 over 2. Then you're multiplying this by your 316,000. Multiplying this by your 316,000, and that will give you 1,264,000. So here it's 1,264,000. And then that 1,264,000 now, it has to be now 5 over, still 5 plus 2, 7 plus 1, 8. It has to be 5 over 8 now. So you come back now and then you say your 1,264,000, you can divide that by 8. You can divide that by 8, you say equals. Then you simply multiply that by 5. And then you get your 790. So you come here, then you say plus 790,000. And you close bracket. Remember what I taught you earlier on. You simply come back again here. And you are now saying on your calculator, minus 316. Minus 316,000. And then you say plus 790. Plus 790,000, and then it should give you 474,000, which is a positive. So we're coming here 474,000. Again, there are swift ways, fast ways of doing this, where you get the differences, but here we're just going to do it nice and slow. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. Okay, the total production for the year is 33.5 units were produced at 475 per unit. So once you're given this, they're trying to say complete this bottom part here. So in the previous classes, I've done how to complete this. In other words, they give you finished stock at the beginning, finished stock at the end. Then you have to calculate your cost of sales, and then you calculate the goods that were produced. But at times, they give you the units together with the cost per unit. So you'd come here, and it would be 33.5. and then you multiply by 475. So if you come here, 33.5, okay, so today we're doing all the calculations together. So it's going to be 33.5 multiplied by 475 times 475, and then it will give you 15,912,500. 15,912,500. 15,912,500. 500. You will see as we go, everything else comes into place. Because remember, we got that one, and then we got this one here. So the only thing that is left is to get the work in process at the end. And then since you got this one here, then it becomes easy to get that figure there. That is what I wanted to show you, how to complete this production cost statement as well. Remember, abridged statement of comprehensive income. Please practice it nicely. Your selling and distribution, your administration cost, all of those adjustments, please do them properly. So, okay, I'm going to quickly rush to activity 3, which is the NSC June for the year 2021. Let's see how far we can go. Okay, I have a few minutes, about 20 minutes left in today's class. So let's see if I can touch a bit of inventory valuation. The information relates to Aluzebex for the financial year. The business uses the FIFO. Remember, I've done the FIFO in this very same class. Go a few weeks back and then you should find that we have done the FIFO. Okay, so here they want us to calculate the value of closing stock and calculate our cost of sales. All right, so here's the information. Calculate the value of closing stock. Let's see if we are able to do this. All right, so how many units do we have? So here we're going to need to have our calculators close. Let's just make sure that we have our calculators close. Let's start. Our units at the end is 380. So I'm coming here and it's going to be 380. And then we have that one there. Okay, let's go on. And then we're now going to say, if we are calculating for 380, what was our most recent purchase? Our most recent purchase is 320 over there. All right, 320 over there. And then we remember we are calculating the value of closing stock using the FIFO. And the returns are from the month of February. So we're saying 320 minus the 20. That means here we are only left with how much? 300. So since we're left with only 300, because the 20 was returned, we would then come here and would say here it's going to be 300. Then I would say multiply. And then I'll come here, then I would say the unit cost is 170, but there is also carriage of 15. So it becomes 170 plus 15. So I would end up with 185. Okay, so since I have 185, let's quickly come now, and then we say 300 times 185. Okay, 300 times 185. So if I come here and I say it is my 300, and then I multiply by 185, it is going to give us 55,500. So I'll come here, it's 55,500. Okay, so I still need 80 more. So I'm going to come to the top part and I'm going to get my 80. Then I say 80 multiplied. Here the cost per unit is 160 and the carriage is 13. So it's 160 plus 13. That gives me 173. So again, we're going to come here and we're going to say our units are 80 multiplied by the 173. Multiplied by the 173, that's going to give me 13,840. So I'm coming here, 13,840. Okay, so I'm going to add these two amounts now, which is my 13,840 plus 55,500. And then it will give you 69,340. 69,340. That gives us our cost of stock, the value of closing stock, using the FIFO method. All right, let's see what else we were required to do. Remember, it's 69,340. That is the value of our closing stock. We're going to come back to it. So calculate the cost of sales. Calculate the cost of sales. Okay, so if we're calculating the cost of sales, it becomes easy because we can use our periodic inventory method, whereby we can say it is our opening stock here, which is 68,120. Then I'll say plus purchases. So I'm going to take my purchases of 272,450. Then I'm going to subtract my 3.7, which is my returns. All right, so let's do that already. Let's see how much I'm going to get, which is my 272,450. Then we subtract here my returns of 3,700. And then it's going to give me 268,750. 268,750. So I'm going to remain here with 268,750. Then I'll come and say lastly, minus closing stock. Minus closing stock. Okay, so my closing stock, remember, we've calculated it, 69,340. All right, so I'm coming here to say minus 69,340. All right, remember, we calculated it there. So I'll come here, then I'm going to get my cost of sales. Here, it was easy because this total includes carriage. Otherwise, I was supposed to add carriage to it. Opening stock plus purchases plus carriage plus customs duty, depending on other costs that were incurred for us to have the stock in our place of business. So let's come here now, and then we would say, to conclude this, it will be 68,120. Then I would say plus 268,750. Okay, then I would say minus your 69,340. Minus 69,340. And then you get your 267,530. 267,530. That becomes your cost of sales. If you're required to calculate gross profit, you simply say sales subtract your cost of sales. At times you may be required to calculate your markup percentage. I've seen that. Please make sure that you don't go to the exam on Monday not knowing how to calculate your markup percentage. All right, that is your gross profit over your cost of sales. All right, and then at times they would also ask you to calculate the stock holding period. And remember, there's two ways in which you can do this, the rands or the units. If you go to the previous week's classes, I've covered all of these aspects. Let's come now to the very last activity for the day. Activity 4. All right, let's see. Calculate the value of closing stock. So in here, we are now using the weighted average. So here we're using the weighted average. Let's see if we are able to get this. So when we use the weighted average, here we're using the weighted average. Remember, it has to be rands over units. That is the weighted average. Rands over your units. Let's begin. Our opening stock in rands is going to be 224,000. So it's 224,000. And the units are 800. 224 over 800. Plus. Then I'll bring my, here I already have net purchases because returns were already catered for. So it's going to be 1,712,000. And I'll divide that, and the number of units is 4,700. Okay, so let's simplify what is at the top. In other words, I'm going to add here. What do I have? I have 224,000. Then I'm going to say plus 1,712,000. 1,712,000. And that's going to give me 1 million. Okay, let's bring it 1,936,000. 1,936,000. And I'm going to divide this by 800 plus 4.7, which is your 5,500. So I want to get the average price per unit. So I'm simply dividing this by 5,500, which in turn will give me 352. So my average price is 352. So I now say 352 multiplied by the number of units at the end, which is 980. 352 times 980 times 980. I multiply that by the units at the end. That gives me 344,960. So I end up with 344,960. 344,960. That is the value of closing stock using the weighted average. Okay, so here we're using the weighted average method. Can I go on? Let's quickly go on to the next one. All right, so it says Lerato is unsure how long it would take to sell the closing stock of pots. Provide a calculation to address her concern. How long it would take to sell the closing stock of pots. So if you come here, you see the closing stock of pots is 980. So she wants to know how long it would take to sell this closing stock of pots. But how many pots has she sold this year? This year, she has sold 4,270. So we understand that she has sold 4,270 pots in 365 days. She sold this many pots in 365 days. So we want to know how many days is it going to take to sell the 980. In other words, you're saying what you want is 980. You divide it by what you have, which is so in other words, you're saying units over units. So you want to know how long it will take to sell the 980, but what you have sold is the 4,270. You multiply that by your 365 days. Okay, let's see how many days that would give us. So we would come back again here and then would say, remember what you want. You want to sell the 980. So far you have sold the 4,270. You have sold them in how many days? In 365 days. We've sold them in 365 days. So, okay, made a mistake there. Let's come back again. So it is your 980 and then over your 4,270, and then we now say in how many days? In 365 days, and then that's gonna give us 83 days. Okay, so 83, that was 83 point what? 0.77 days. Okay, 83.77 days. Okay, I think we're about to conclude today's class. We're left with about 10 minutes. So let's speak a bit about this one. It's going to take 83.77 days to sell this. Okay, this is one way of bringing this question. How long it will take to sell the closing stock. But at times the examiner brings the very same question, and the examiner would say, calculate the stock holding period using closing stock. Using closing stock. Okay, so you have the very same thing, because once you're talking about the stock holding period, you are not going to have average here, because it's not the average stock holding period. It's the stock holding period using closing stock. So you're going to have your closing stock here at the top over your cost of sales in units, and then multiply again by 365, which is the stock holding period. You come back again to this very same thing. So the examiner can ask this thing in two different ways, yet it's the same thing. Stock holding period using closing stock, one way. Second way, provide a calculation to show how long in days it would take to sell the closing stock. Exactly the very same thing. So make sure you cover all your areas, just in case it can come in one or two areas. Explain whether this period calculated is acceptable or not. You see that in this question, the previous days were more. If our stock holding period is more, 100 and something days, that is not good. It affects the liquidity of the business. But if the stock holding period is less, it means we're keeping stock less. That avoids stock being obsolete, stock getting damaged and stolen. So the shorter the stock holding period, the better it is for the business. It helps the business with its liquidity. Okay, let's calculate now the next one, the number of missing pots. I know you have several ways of doing this. I just thought, why don't we just do a stock account? Here I'm going to have a plus, here I'm going to have a minus. All right, so my opening stock, I'm going to say here opening stock is how much? 800. And then here I'm going to have my net purchases. Net purchases All right, you can see here net purchases, which is how much? 4,700. 4,700. That is my net purchases. And here I'm going to have my sales. How much is my sales? 4,270. And then here I have my closing stock. And how much is my closing stock? 980. And then I'll close this up. So it's going to give me 5.5 here. It's going to be 5.5. So simply saying this minus that, and that will give you your missing. All right, I'm going to leave you to calculate the missing as I go on to the next one. That is how we get our missing units. Okay, can I go on to the next one? All right, next one, activity 4. I just have to do specific identification before I go. Can I do that? Thank you. I'm going to do specific identification. Let's quickly go. Okay, so this is from the NSE June 2022, NSE June 2022. And then this has to do with microwave ovens, not ovens, okay? So microwave ovens, and then calculate the value of the closing stock of these microwave ovens. And then we are given information, and then let's come back now. So we have two models. We have the Swift, the Swift oven, and we have opening stock, which is 380, and then we have purchases, which is 750. Opening stock plus purchases, and then there's no returns of the Swift. It is only the delta. And sales of the Swift, it is 965 minus 965. Do you see that? Okay, so let's go and see. So if we come here, we are now saying, okay, calculator's ready. It is 380, then we say plus 750, all right, minus 965. That's going to give us 165. So we have 165 units on hand. But how much are they costing? You can see here 2.8, 2.8. So their cost is 2.8. How much in total is that going to give us? Then I multiply this by 2,800. Okay, how much do we get? 462,000. So here it becomes 462,000. Which one is this? The Swift. Let's go to the next one, the Delta. Okay, let's see what they're saying about the Delta. With the Delta, we have 430 at the beginning. We have 430 at the beginning, and we bought 600. We bought 600 over here. And we returned 120. We returned 120, and we also sold 580. We also sold 580. Okay, so we'll come here and then we'll say 430 plus the 600, okay, minus the 120 minus the 580, minus the 580, not 590, Mr. Simbi, 580. How much do we get there? Okay, 330. So here we end up with 330. The 330 multiplied by 3,200, multiplied by 3.2. All right, so we come here, we multiply that by 3.2. We multiply that by 3.2, and then we're going to get 1,056,000. So we're going to get 1,056,000. Okay, so we're going to add these figures. We're going to add that one and that one, all right, to get our value of closing stock. So we're going to say here 1,056,000 plus your 462,000. 462,000. That is going to give us 1,518,000. 1,518,000. That becomes the value of our closing stock using the specific identification method. All right, now let's see if I still have a minute just to touch one more aspect, but this more or less is what you are supposed to do when you calculate your value of closing stock. Dear learners, we've come to the end of today's lesson. I wish I could do more. I know we still had to touch problem solving on tangible assets. Please go and revise. Work on your problem solving on inventory. Work on problem solving of your tangible assets. Work on problem solving for your cost accounting, because these are the things that I've touched in today's class. I know you're going to make us proud on Monday, and I know you have the entire weekend to yourself to study. Please use this weekend to study, and make sure as you study, you also understand what you're doing. Until next time, I wish you a blessed, I wish you a lovely studying, and I wish you that you're going to enjoy the entire weekend as you're going to spend it preparing for your paper 2. Until next time, it is goodbye.